There are moments in history where empires don't fall with an explosion. They fall with a signature, a single pen stroke on a single page in a quiet boardroom, $10,000 messes from Washington. And suddenly, the architecture of American power has a crack running through its foundation. Today, that crack became a canyon. At 6:47 a.m. Eastern Time, before most Americans had poured their first cup of coffee, before the White House press team had even logged into their computers, Toyota Motor Corporation, the largest automaker on planet Earth, released a 4-page statement from their headquarters in Toyota City, Japan. 4 pages, 12 paragraphs. And inside those paragraphs, the death certificate for American manufacturing dominance. Toyota is pulling out of Alabama, not scaling back, not pausing, not reviewing timelines, pulling out the $9 billion next-generation electric vehicle and battery megafactory that was supposed to break ground in Huntsville. The factory that Governor Kay Ivey called the single greatest economic achievement in Alabama's history is dead. And where is that $9 billion going? Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Across the border, across the river, close enough that the workers in Detroit can literally see the construction cranes from their kitchen windows. Close enough to taste, too far to touch. This isn't a negotiation tactic. This isn't corporate posturing. This is a Japanese industrial giant. A company that has been building cars in America since 1986. A company that employs 36,000 Americans. A company that has poured more money into the American South than most federal programs. Looking at Donald Trump's America and making a cold, calculated, irreversible decision, they're done. And here's the part that should terrify you. They aren't alone, because behind closed doors, Honda, Nissan, and Subaru are all watching. They're all running the same numbers. They're all looking at the same spreadsheets, and they're all reaching the same conclusion. America is no longer worth the risk. In the next 45 minutes, I'm going to take you inside the room where this decision was made. I'm going to show you the internal Toyota risk assessment that was leaked to the Nikkei Business Journal, the document that explicitly names Donald Trump as a Tier 1 operational threat, the same classification they use for earthquakes and pandemics. I'm going to show you how Mark Carney executed the most sophisticated industrial heist since the Marshall Plan. I'm going to show you why the governor of Alabama is in a state of absolute panic right now. And I'm going to explain with receipts why the price of the car sitting in your driveway is about to go up by $8,000. You are watching the American industrial base get dismantled. Not by China, not by an enemy, by an ally who got tired of being treated like a hostage. This is the story they don't want you to understand. Let's go. Segment 1. The trigger. Let's rewind the clock because this didn't happen overnight. This happened in stages, and every single stage has Donald Trump's fingerprints on it. 14 months ago, Toyota announced a landmark investment in the United States. The Huntsville Megafactory was going to be the crown jewel of their North American electrification strategy. It was massive. 4,000 acres, over 5,000 permanent jobs. A battery production line that would supply not just Toyota, but the entire Japanese auto ecosystem in the American South. Alabama gave them everything. $800 million in state tax incentives, free land, expedited permitting. The governor personally flew to Tokyo to close the deal. Senator Tommy Tuberville held a press conference calling it proof that MAGA economics works. It was done. Contracts were signed, engineers were relocating their families, construction crews were mobilized, and then Donald Trump opened his mouth. 7 weeks ago, Trump announced not through official policy channels, not through the Commerce Department, not through any normal governmental process, but through a 3:00 a.m. post on Truth Social that he was considering a reciprocal tariff adjustment on all Japanese automotive imports. His argument: Japan doesn't buy enough American cars. Therefore, Japanese companies building cars in America should pay a surcharge on every component they import from their home country. Read that again slowly. He wanted to tax a company for building cars in America because their home country doesn't buy enough American cars. It's punishing the ally for the behavior of the ally's consumers. It's economic insanity dressed up as patriotism. But it gets worse. 3 weeks after that post, a draft executive order leaked from the office of the U.S. Trade Representative. This draft, which we obtained and verified through two independent sources, outlined a plan to impose a 40% tariff on all Japanese-origin automotive components unless Japan agreed to three conditions. 1. Open the Japanese rice market to unlimited American agricultural exports. 2. Increase Japanese defense spending to 4% of GDP within 18 months. 3. Align Japan's semiconductor export controls with U.S. policy toward China, essentially giving Washington veto power over Tokyo's trade relationships. These aren't trade demands. These are ultimatums, and they have nothing to do with cars. Trump was using Toyota's factory in Alabama as a bargaining chip to force Japan's hand on rice, on military spending, and on China. When this draft landed on Akio Toyota's desk in Toyota City, sources inside the company say the room went cold. The chairman, the grandson of Toyota's founder, a man who has spent his entire life building the company's American presence, looked at his advisors and asked one question: how quickly can we move? The answer was 90 days. The Windsor site was already on their short list. Canada had been quietly courting them for months. The infrastructure was ready. The incentives were prepared. The legal framework was in place. All Toyota needed was a reason. Trump gave them one. Segment 2, the receipts. We do evidence here, not opinion, not speculation. Let's look at the receipts. Receipt 1, the Toyota Risk Assessment. This is the document that changes everything. It was leaked to the Nikkei Asian Review 4 days ago, and we have independently confirmed its authenticity through two former Toyota board members. It's titled North American Operational Risk Matrix Q3 Review. It's a 47-page internal assessment that Toyota's strategic planning division produces every quarter. It evaluates every risk factor that could affect their manufacturing operations. In the Q1 version from January, the United States was classified as a Tier 3 risk environment, the same as Germany, the same as Canada. Stable, predictable, safe. In the Q3 version, the one leaked this week, the United States has been reclassified as a Tier 1 risk environment. Tier 1. The same classification as active conflict zones, the same classification as countries experiencing regime change, the same classification Toyota uses for natural disaster scenarios. And in the margin notes, this is the part that should make every American voter physically sick. An analyst wrote, U.S. policy environment now exhibits volatility characteristics comparable to emerging market governance. Long-term capital deployment not recommended without sovereign guarantee mechanisms that the current administration is unable or unwilling to provide. They compared America to an emerging market. They compared the United States of America, the country that invented the assembly line, the country that put a man on the moon, the country that built the interstate highway system, to a developing nation too unstable to invest in. That's not an insult. That's a spreadsheet. That's math. And math doesn't care about your feelings. Receipt 2, the Carney playbook. Now look at the other side of the border. Look at what Mark Carney was doing while Trump was tweeting. 6 months ago, long before this crisis, Carney launched what his office internally calls Project Anchor. We've obtained briefing documents through access to information requests filed by Canadian journalists. Project Anchor is a coordinated strategy to attract global automotive investment to Canada. It identifies 12 target companies: Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and 6 major battery manufacturers. For each company, the Canadian government prepared a customized investment package. Not just money, not just tax breaks, something far more valuable: certainty. Each package includes a 15-year regulatory stability guarantee, a legally binding commitment that Canadian trade policy, environmental standards, and tax rates will not change retroactively for the duration of the investment. Think about what that means. Toyota can pour $9 billion into Windsor and know with legal certainty that the rules won't change because the Prime Minister had a bad morning. They can plan, they can forecast, they can build. In America, under Trump, they can't even predict what the tariff rate will be next Tuesday. Carney didn't steal Toyota. He didn't have to. He just built a lifeboat and waited for Trump to sink the ship. Receipt 3, the market verdict. Money doesn't lie. Money is the most honest narrator in human civilization. So let's listen to what it's saying. The moment the Toyota announcement hit the wire this morning, here is what happened. The Canadian dollar surged 1.8% against the US dollar in 90 minutes. That is an earthquake in currency markets. That is global capital voting with its feet. Toyota's stock in Tokyo up 4.2%. Investors see the Windsor move as a black chick reduction in risk. They are literally celebrating that Toyota is leaving America. Let that sink in. The global investment community considers leaving the United States jaw. Now look at the American side. Ford dropped 5.1%. General Motors dropped 4.7%. Stellantis dropped 6.3%. Why? Because every analyst on Wall Street is asking the same question. If Toyota's suppliers follow them to Ontario, and they will, the cost of parts for American automakers just went up. The entire supply chain ecosystem that the American South has built over 40 years is being pulled northward like a tablecloth being yanked off a dinner table. And here's the kicker. Alabama state bonds, the municipal bonds that fund schools, roads, hospitals, dropped in value within hours. Rating agencies are already whispering about a review. Because when you lose $9 billion investment, your tax base doesn't just shrink, it collapses. And every citizen in Alabama pays for that collapse in crumbling infrastructure and rising local taxes. Trump promised to make Alabama great. He just made it poorer. Receipt 4, the silence from the GOP. This receipt is what you don't hear, and the silence is deafening. Governor Kay Ivey, a Republican, a Trump ally, a woman who stood on stage with the president and praised his trade policy, has not issued a statement. It's been 9 hours. 9 hours since the biggest economic blow in Alabama's modern history, and the governor is silent. Senator Tommy Tuberville, the man who called the Toyota deal proof that MAGA economics works, has deleted that tweet. It's gone, scrubbed, we have the screenshot, we archived it. He can delete the tweet. He can't delete the reality. The Republican congressional delegation from Alabama silent the RNC silent Fox News. They led with a segment on border crossings. They buried the Toyota story in a 30C second-on mention during the 4 p.m. hour. They don't want you to see this. They don't want you to connect the dots because the dots lead directly to the Oval Office, and the picture they form is devastating. Segment 3, the psychological breakdown. Let me tell you why Donald Trump cannot stop this bleeding. It's not because his policy is wrong, though it is. It's because his psychology is wrong for this moment. Trump operates on domination. Every interaction is a contest. Every conversation is a fight. Every negotiation is a performance for an audience. He needs to be seen winning. He needs the other person to be seen losing. This works in certain arenas. It works in real estate where the other party is trapped. They own the land. They can't move it. It works in entertainment where conflict drives ratings. It works in political primaries where the loudest voice gets the most attention. But it does not work. It has never worked in global capital allocation. Capital is not a person. You cannot bully it. You cannot shame it. You cannot tweet at it. Capital is water. It flows downhill. It flows towards safety. It flows away from heat. And right now, the United States under Donald Trump is generating so much political heat that capital is evaporating out of the country. Toyota didn't leave because they're weak. They left because they're rational. They ran the numbers, and the numbers said the probability of policy disruption in the United States over the next decade is too high to justify a $9 billion fixed asset investment. That's it. It's not emotional, it's actuarial. They treated Trump like a risk factor. They calculated his probability of chaos, and they priced it into their decision. He is being quantified, he is being measured, and he is being found too expensive. Now look at Mark Carney. Carney is the anti-Trump. Where Trump is loud, Carney is quiet. Where Trump threatens, Carney calculates. Where Trump demands loyalty, Carney offers contracts. Carney understands something that Trump fundamentally cannot grasp. In the 21st century, power doesn't come from being feared. It comes from being trusted. Nobody invests $9 billion because they're afraid of you. They invest $9 billion because they trust you, because they believe the rules today will be the rules tomorrow, because they know the government won't wake up one morning and change the game because the president saw something on cable news that made him angry. Carney is selling trust, and the market is buying. He is turning Canada into the most boring, most predictable, most stable investment environment in the Western Hemisphere. And in a world on fire, boring is worth billions. Trump calls it weakness. The market calls it a premium. Segment 4, the consequences for you. Let me bring this home because I know some of you are watching this thinking, I don't work in a car factory, I don't live in Alabama. Why should I care? You should care because this is about to hit your wallet like a freight train. Your next car. If Toyota is building in Canada instead of Alabama and Trump puts a tariff on Canadian-made vehicles, you, the American consumer, pay that tariff. Not Toyota, not Canada, you. A 25% tariff on a $40,000 Toyota means you pay $50,000 for the same car. And if you say, fine, I'll buy American. Ford and GM are going to raise their prices too. Because why wouldn't they? Their competition just got 25% more expensive. You have no leverage. You have no options. You just have a bigger car payment, your job. Toyota's Alabama factory wasn't just Toyota. It was the 200 suppliers who were going to build facilities nearby. It was the restaurants, the gas stations, the daycare centers, the hardware stores that would serve 5,000 workers and their families. That entire ecosystem is gone. If you own a small business in Huntsville that was counting on that factory traffic, your business plan just became a fantasy, your retirement. If you have a 401k, and 60% of Americans do, you own auto stocks, you own industrial stocks, you own the index funds that track the S&P 500. When Toyota leaves and the supply chain fractures, those stocks go down. Your retirement goes down. Trump didn't just cost Alabama jobs, he cost every American with a retirement account real, measurable, permanent wealth. Your national standing. This is the one nobody talks about, but everybody feels. For 80 years, Made in America meant something. It meant quality. It meant stability. It meant the future. When Toyota chose Alabama in the first place, it was a vote of confidence in America. When they left, it was a vote of no confidence. And every other company in the world heard that vote. You are not just losing a factory. You are losing your reputation. And in global economics, reputation is everything. It takes decades to build and one Truth Social post to destroy. Segment 5, the domino forecast. Now let's talk about what comes next. Because Toyota isn't the end, Toyota is the beginning. Scenario A, the retaliation spiral. Trump wakes up tomorrow humiliated. He announces punitive tariffs on all Japanese automotive imports, 50%, maybe higher. Japan retaliates by selling U.S. Treasury bonds. Japan is the single largest foreign holder of American government debt. If they start dumping treasuries, interest rates spike, your mortgage rate goes up, your credit card rate goes up, the housing market freezes, we enter a recession within 6 months. Trump started a trade war and accidentally triggered a financial crisis. This is the high-risk, high-probability scenario. Scenario B, the domino effect. Honda sees Toyota succeed in Windsor. Within 90 days, Honda announces it's relocating its Ohio expansion to Ontario. Hyundai, which was building a massive EV plant in Georgia, follows. BMW, which was expanding in South Carolina, pauses and reviews options. Within 18 months, the American South, the region that rebuilt its economy on foreign auto investment, is hemorrhaging factories. The Rust Belt doesn't just stay rusted, it expands south. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. The new Rust Belt built not by globalization, but by one man's ego. Scenario C, the Canadian Golden Age. This is the long-term play. Canada becomes the manufacturing hub of North America. They have the minerals. They have the clean energy. They have the trade agreements with Europe and Asia. They have a government that doesn't change the rules based on the leader mood. Within a decade, Ontario's GDP rivals California's. Canadian wages rise. Canadian innovation accelerates and America watches from across the border as the future is built in a country with 1/10 its population. Mark Carney knows all three scenarios. He's prepared for all three. He's a central banker. Preparing for worst-case scenarios is literally his training. Trump is prepared for none of them because Trump doesn't prepare. He reacts, and every reaction makes it worse. Segment 6. The verdict. Let me leave you with one image. Right now in Huntsville, Alabama, there is a field 4,000 acres of cleared land. The roads have been graded. The utility hookups have been installed. There is a sign at the entrance, a big, proud sign that reads, "Future home of Toyota, Alabama, building tomorrow together." That sign is going to come down. The roads will crack. The weeds will grow. And the families who moved to Huntsville for a future that was promised to them will pack their cars and drive away. 250 mi north across an invisible line on a map. The excavators are already digging in Windsor. The concrete trucks are lining up. Thousands of Canadian workers are going to build the cars that American workers were supposed to build. And they're going to do it because one man in Washington decided that threats were more important than trust. Donald Trump told you he was putting America first. He put America's ego first, and the world made other plans. I.O. Toyota stood at a podium in Toyota City this morning. A reporter asked him, just like they asked the Volkswagen CEO, was the political climate in the United States a factor? Toyota didn't dodge. He didn't flinch. He looked directly into the camera and said 7 words. "We build where we are wanted and safe. Wanted and safe. America is neither right now." And Mark Carney, he was standing in Windsor, Ontario, hard hat on, shovel in the dirt, breaking ground before the ink on Toyota's press release was dry. He didn't gloat. He didn't insult Trump. He didn't need to. The shovel said everything. Close call to action. I want to hear from you. How many factories have to leave before this stops being a political debate and starts being a national emergency? If you live in Alabama, in the South, in any state that was counting on these investments, how does this feel? Is this what you voted for? Is this winning? And if you're watching from Canada, is Carney a genius, or is he playing with fire by poking the most unpredictable president in American history? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Every single one. This channel is tracking the industrial exodus from the United States in real time. Every factory, every dollar, every job. The mainstream media gives you the headline and moves on. We give you the receipts, the context, and the consequences. Click subscribe, hit the bell. Send this to someone who still thinks tariffs are a strategy and not a suicide note, because tomorrow morning, when Trump sees this Toyota story, he's going to respond. And based on everything we've seen, everything we've documented on this channel, his response is going to make it worse. You need to be here when it happens. Stay watching. Don't blink. The dominoes are falling.